the world is really, really complex. And I think in order to understand it, we all just have to simplify it by breaking it down into smaller bits and pieces. So to just understand reality and the concept of time, space, it's like too much to think about it all the time. So we kind of like break this down. And I think the same goes with technology. Like you are just not aware on like how your phone or computer works all the time. You're just happy that it works. And this sort of simplification is also really I think it happens a lot of in stories. So these stories kind of enable us to think about our lives in like a different perspective, and they kind of help us to discover ourselves in a way, because we recognize ourselves in the characters that are in the story, and ideally the stories also teach us something. So these three concepts I'd like to go a little bit deeper on in the form of four stories. So that would be the story of Tony Stark, Tim Urban, Steve Jobs, and Kirito from Sword Art Online. And without further ado, let's get started.
Holistic, gamified education. Holy game.
So Tony Stark is probably my most favorite superhero. I'm not sure if most favorite is correct, but I'm just gonna roll with it. And the reason why I like him so much is because he uses technology in a way that, well, also fights crime, but also helps him in his day-to-day life. And it just, well, makes life easier. And the I think that's Iron Man 2, where he starts to like throw his holographs around. It still gives me chills from this day, and I really want this to be the future that we live in, and to like really collaborate in that way. And his story is also a really powerful one in the way that it's just so impactful. If you have seen Endgame, the things that are happening in there and the service that Tony is delivering there is just, I don't know, like it's not seen anywhere else, but it's just so well done, and I think it personally it fits very well, and there are many parallels. So this is what I think most people like about stories, when they're like intertwined and connected to each other, and yeah, it really makes it an enjoyable experience. And then moving on would be the story of Tim Urban, who is the writer from the article or blog from Wait But Why. And what he does is he explains reality in a way that is really easy to understand. So he uses a ton of stick figures to bring his point across, and also a very easy style of writing. And I think if you know Kurzgesagt, you'll really enjoy them, and they actually make like a ton of collaborations. I think Kurzgesagt is more focused on like explaining space and like the science behind it, and while Tim Urban with Wait But Why focuses more on explaining, well, he does go into sociology, but also like the terms of time, like how time works and how we perceive time differently. One of his favorite remarks that like still sticks with me is that when you're like in your 20s, you have spent the majority of the time with your parents already, and you are in the last quarter at least. So I hope this doesn't sound too depressing, what I'm trying to say, or like what Tim is trying to say, that we should just use our time more productively, or not take it for granted. That's what he means, to really appreciate every moment, and also the moment with our loved ones is like so important, and he really holds that down. So really good read that I can recommend quite often. And next story would be the one of Steve Jobs and his role in developing the technology, essentially. So I have been an Apple hater for like a really long time, and I always used like, oh, it's too expensive, and other companies are just making the same products with like the same specs. And after like many friends who was like, hey, like Apple is actually like really good, and like many turn, I took a closer look at it, and what I really enjoy about it now, or the concept of this, is the seamless integration that they are able to do. So, um, and I really like that, because even though I study business information systems, I still struggle like almost on a daily basis with technology. And that was last time I was just like having such a hard time just to connect my headphones to my computer. And that shouldn't be a hard thing to do. And this is just, I don't know, I from what I heard, this doesn't happen with Apple. And they just make the product finished. It's complete when they deliver it. And I really like that. And I think I'll be switching to Apple soon. And I'm willing to just make the investment in that and pay for a finished product instead of paying for a product that was just released to be ahead of anyone else. So I think I prefer a finished product, and I'm willing to pay more for that. And another thing about Steve Jobs is, well, he kind of designed the whole Apple construct, so that's why I was talking so much about Apple. But he was not only interested in Apple, or he also was really interested in music, and he also founded Pixar. And this is a really nice story that is like in the autobiography, and I don't hear a lot of people talk about. But when Disney bought Pixar, they kind of, Disney kept the name, but the board of directors was from Disney was kind of replaced by the board of directors from Pixar. So the management from Pixar took over Disney, but Disney kind of kept the name. And I hope I'm not mixing up something here. So this is how I remember it, and if I'm wrong, please do correct me. I just find it incredible how essentially Steve Jobs not only produced the most valuable company in being Apple, but also had such a huge influence on like probably the biggest entertainment company that just produces so good stories now. Like if you haven't seen Raya, the Last Dragon, or Moana, like instantly they're like in my top 10 of my favorite movies. So the quality they just deliver and the message is so well done. And talking about stories, I'd like to move on to Kirito from Sword Art Online. And if you don't know Sword Art Online, it's kind of this anime which is about a virtual reality game. And the caveat is that when you die in game, you die in real life. So I'd like to avoid that, but the rest of the game is like really, really cool. So in the game, you can have like different sword skills, and later they introduce magic, and you can even fly around. And well, I'm obviously a fan of virtual reality, and I'm also liking sword fighting quite a bit, and just magic fantasy has been like down my alley for a really long time. It just combines all those things very nicely. And what I really like about Kirito is he talks about your virtual or digital body in a way as it is as real as your physical body. And I think in our today's time, this is even more relevant, because we are just able to interact with other people at such a close basis. Like through the help of technology, we are just able to call someone from like another part of the world instantly, and that's quicker than me going to neighbors. So essentially, we are all becoming neighbors in a way, and therefore we should also treat our digital selves with like the respect, and also treat others with the same respect that we would do in real life. And this is one of the aspects that he's really honing down within the series. And another part, what I just like really enjoy about it, is the progression from virtual reality to augmented reality to eventually artificial intelligence is quite nicely laid out. And I think it's only becoming more impactful in the future. And I'm really looking forward to like see how it develops. And if you haven't been a fan of Sword Art Online so far, there's like a movie coming out in October, and it kind of starts with the game at like essentially floor 0. So they're like different floors or levels. that the story goes through, and they kind of start at place zero with like a new fresh perspective, and the writing has like improved a whole lot. It's called Sword Art Online Progressive. So coming out in October, just making advertisement for them at this point. But I'm just really excited for that, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. And it's a message that needs to be broadcasted more and more, especially as we move more towards a world where technology is just integrated in our lives, and the balance between technology and nature just has to be improved in that way, and we have to raise our consciousness. So I hope you find these stories entertaining and maybe even a bit educational. So best thing is if you enjoyed it, so do show that through liking, subscribing. It just enables me to do much more of the products and also show it to a wider audience. And if you think that this is something more people should be knowing about or hearing, this is the best way to do that. And you can also support me on Patreon, link in the description down below. And otherwise, I hope you have a great one, and remember to master your body, train your mind, and love your soul. See you next time.